Well, it's finally here. The Hoya Tour that people have been asking for, the long-awaited, much-anticipated Hoya Tour. So, join me with a tasty beverage close to hand while we start this Long Hoya Tour. And I thought we'd start this tour by taking a look at the room we're in right now. Most of you only see it from this angle, but there's other stuff going on. So we're going to do a slow pan of the room, and I'll tell you about it. It's an enclosed porch. There's no heat, there's no insulation. So as soon as the colder temperatures come, all these plants come inside and settle throughout the house. There's currently about 78 plants out here on the porch. About 18 of them are Hoyas, so those are the ones we're going to look at close up today. This is my favorite room. As soon as it's warm, even before warmth, I'll put a little space heater out here and I'll just hang out because it's just great. This is not the Hoya room. This is the plant room. This is the room my friends call the conservatory because it's when the plants from throughout the house settle in one location for a while. So it faces due north is that direction. Due west is straight behind me, and yeah, it's one of the nicest rooms in the house. You may notice that some of the hanging Hoyas look a little dry. We've had 2 weeks of brutally hot temperatures, daytime temperatures in the 90s and humidity 80% or so, which is unusual for where I live. I live in the Northern Hemisphere in the United States, in the state of Rhode Island. And we occasionally get some warm days, but not like it's been. Most of my hanging Hoyas are in a really chunky mix of bark and sphagnum. They're not in net pots, but they're in open pots. And this heat was just taking a toll on them. So I've been trying to find a way to move them to a self-watering setup because that works for everybody else. And I think I may have finally found the pots for that. I like a wick-based system for self-watering, so I may have found the pots. Got some on order. They should be here early next week. If they work out, I'll let you know, and I'll put them in my Amazon storefront. That's where I put the stuff that works for me. So with that all done and said, let's take a look at the first plant. And my list says it is Hoya pubicalyx silver pink. And this handsome fellow is my Hoya pubicalyx silver pink. I bought it early on in my Hoya career because I wanted a splashy Hoya. And the splashy Hoyas that I saw online were all very expensive. And because I was kind of new and a little timid about this, I didn't want to spend a lot of money, but I did want a bit of splash. This has been a nice grower. It hasn't bloomed for me yet. It's in a net pot with bark and sphagnum, maybe a little bit of other finer material. I need to move this to self-watering. Self-watering just seems to solve a lot of problems for me. So I need to move this to self-watering, but it loves it out here in the summertime and it's been doing really well. It's relatively inexpensive, easy to find, and yeah, Hoya pubicalyx silver pink. And the next one up is this Hoya carnosa rubra. Now, we're going to talk a little bit about rubra and tricolor and naming in just a little bit. But I found this in a big box store. It was in a nice big pot, and I decided to bring it home. Moved it to bark and sphagnum. It took a little bit for it to adjust to that, but as you can see, it's doing really well. Occasionally it puts out a unvariegated vine, but if it needs to do that, that's fine with me. This is Hoya carnosa rubra. And the next one up is this Hoya blashernaezii. And I'm struggling with this one a little bit. It has, well, the leaves are beautiful. Number one, let's just talk about really beautiful leaves. See if that does it any better. But as you can see, there are some issues. And the issues start on the reverse side of the leaves, the underside. Let's see if that... There's something going on there. I think it might be some kind of fungus. And nobody else seems to have it in the plant room, in the Hoya room. So I took a cutting recently, and I'm cutting, the leaves on the cutting were all clear. So I'm trying to root that and see if we can get started. This one has always been a struggle. I don't know what's going on. I probably should do some more research about fungus and things like that. It's been treated with sulfur, because that is a fungicide. It's been treated with an oil, a vegetable or treated vegetable oil mix. It gets watered with that, so it should be kicking it back, but it doesn't seem to be. But anyway, this is Hoya blashernaezii. And the next one on my list is my Hoya lacunosa snowcaps. I found this in a big box store. It was in that coco-coir mix that company likes to use. And I decided to move it last summer out of that mix into a better draining mix. It liked it last summer. It did really, really well, but the heat this year has just taken a toll on this little plant. So it's going to be one, it's a lacunosa, and I love lacunosa. So it's going to be one of my first to try out in the new self-watering pots. During the winter, when it's not quite so hot, even though it's a little bit drier, the plant does better and it blooms for me regularly. And you know, I love lacunosa. So this is Hoya lacunosa snowcaps. And the next Hoya up is my Hoya carnosa Crimson Queen. And this actually is a Crimson Queen. There's a bit of confusion about the naming of these two plants. So if it comes with inner variegation, it's Hoya carnosa rubra. If it doesn't come with the name Crimson Princess, you can't make it royal. Crimson Princess is a patented and trademarked plant. So if it doesn't come with that name, you can't add it. And not every inner variegated carnosa is a Crimson Princess. Same with Crimson Queen. If it didn't come with that name, just because it's got outer variegation does not make it a Crimson Queen. So my rubra did not come with the name Crimson Princess. This one did come with the name Crimson Queen. And it's an absolutely beautiful plant. I mean, there's nothing not to like about it. It's putting out some peduncles for the first time, which is very cool. I've had it for a while now. And it likes being out here in the summer. It gets a little bit, it sits over here on this side, which is southwest, but it's under the trees, so it gets some dappled light. It really likes being in pond and self-watering. And that's why, because I've been remembering to water it. So yeah, this is fun. Remember how the names actually work. And this is Hoya carnosa Crimson Queen. And the next one up is this Hoya globulosa cowbong. I thought it was really neat looking when I ordered it. When it got here, it just blew me away. It's very, very furry. The tops of the leaves have a little bit of fur, but when you feel the underside, it's like velvet, literally like velvet. And the leaves are just beautiful. I mean, wowie. And they are that shiny and they are that gorgeous. This is a very pretty plant. My only complaint is that the internodal spacing can be, what is that? That's probably 10 inches between there and there. So you either have to kind of let it go and do its thing or start wrapping it. And this one got ahead of me and worked itself through the trellising in a way that doesn't work for me, but it apparently works for the plant. It's really, really pretty. It's very cool, but know that you're going to get internodal spacing like that, and you'll just have to deal with it. But it's really, really pretty, and the first time you touch those leaves, it's going to just blow you away. This is Hoya globulosa cowbong. And this sort of big boy is my Hoya australis. I built a huge trellis for it because I had very great expectations. And it's a very pretty plant. Let's see if I can get it to focus. There we go. See if that does it. It's been doing okay. Right now it's in a bark and sphagnum in a net pot with a bamboo trellis, and it's doing all right. It would probably much prefer self-watering. Everybody likes self-watering, no matter what mix it's in, except soil. I tried some other plants in soil and self-watering, and it did not go well. But Hoyas and H. cananthus and Dischidia all seem to like it. So I'm probably going to try moving this to a self-watering setup and see what happens. But it's been a good, stable plant. It wasn't expensive. It's kind of plain. It hasn't bloomed or done anything outstanding, but it's my Hoya australis. And the next plant up is my first Hoya species affinity burtoniae. And when I saw it in the store, I thought that's what it was, but it just didn't look right. But I decided to buy it anyway because, you know, at the time, those big pots were like $19. The leaves have always curled under like this. When it came this way, so it was this way from the grower. It stayed this way. It doesn't matter how much I watered, how much light, nothing changes the way the leaves are curled. And I have another species affinity burtoniae that looks completely different. You would almost think they were different plants. I'm not sure what's going on with this one, but it blooms, it's happy, it's growing, it's lush for its weird leaf shape, which is another indication of you can't always judge a Hoya or name a Hoya or identify a Hoya based upon its looks. So this is Hoya species affinity burtoniae. This is my first one. And the next plant up is my Hoya carnosa Chelsea. And I had seen this on somebody else's channel, and I looked at it and went, yeah, man, I'm not interested. It's not, yeah, okay. And then I saw it in a big box store and I literally said, that's Hoya carnosa Chelsea. And I picked it up and bought it that day. And it has been a great grower for me. It has not bloomed yet. The leaves are kind of cool. They remind me of crincolate, or crincolate reminds me of Chelsea. It usually hangs over here, or is that it? No, it's this over here. Anyway, it's back there. It's been a good grower. It puts up with a lot of less than perfect care and just plows on through. So yeah, this is Hoya carnosa Chelsea. And the next up is my Hoya Mathilde. I showed this plant a couple weeks ago in one of my videos because it was blooming and it was the first time it had bloomed for me. And I decided that it couldn't live where it had been, couldn't live there any longer. It had gotten too leggy, too long. I wanted more leaves. I wanted bigger and darker leaves. So I decided to move it out here, and it'll be in a different location this winter in the house than where it has been. In order to move it from the pot it was in to this hanging pot, I had to go in and cut some roots. They had grown through the bottom and so were so entwined with the wick that there was no way of getting it out. So what I did was to literally just cut the wick and any roots that came through the bottom of the pot, set up the new pot with a new wick and pot, and just plonked it right down. And it seems not much the worse for wear. Peduncles that had been there before the transition are still there and are starting to open up. So fingers crossed that this one's going to work and it's going to be a smooth transition. This is Hoya Mathilde. And the next little guy is my Hoya lacunosa royal flush. And this one too is a big box store refugee. This one too came in that cocoa coir mix that's great for rooting them in, but not great for growing them in long term. So I took it all out, washed them all off, resettled them into bark and sphagnum, and it has been doing pretty well. Again, the heat just did a number on this, took its toll on this, and he's hanging over there right now. But he's been blooming, he's been hanging in there, and I think we're going to be okay. I love lacunosa, and royal flush has been a good and consistent bloomer year-round for me. And I love the scent of lacunosa blooms, and there's something about, because he spends the winter in the den, when you're sitting there watching TV and all of a sudden you get a hint of lacunosa in the middle of winter, that's nice. This is Hoya lacunosa royal flush. And this one is my Hoya pubicalyx. This one was also labeled silver pink. The one you saw earlier had a note on it that was extra splashy, which was what I was looking for. But this silver pink, let's get some gorgeous leaf shots here, has been a really good plant. It's just been a grower. And I put it on this humongous trellis, and with a little bit of care, it's doing its thing. No, that's not going to stay. I need some Velcro. It's doing its thing. It's putting out nice, pretty leaves. Again, this one hasn't bloomed for me either, but it's growing for me, and it seems pretty healthy. It has put up with its fair share of abuse and neglect. And it's a neat little plant. So yeah, they're not terribly expensive. They're usually fairly easy to find, at least they used to be. And it'll grow. Blossoms, not for me so far, but fingers crossed. So this is Hoya pubicalyx, silver pink. All this lifting these heavy plants and moving stuff around and talking can leave a man a bit parched. So this next one, I really like this plant. This is Hoya australis lisa. And it's just a beautiful plant. Hoya australis lisa taught me about the joys and trials of mesh. I finally found one of these. I'd wanted one for a while, and I'd finally found one, and the price was really good, and I ordered it, and it came, it traveled well, everything was good. And I settled it into bark and sphagnum, and I literally just kind of like took it up and shook it a little bit and put the whole thing into a kind of a barky, sphaggy soil mix. I didn't want to do too much. And it grew a little bit, and then it just stopped. And it didn't die, and it didn't drop any leaves, it just stopped growing. And it was like, it was summer, it should have been growing up a storm, it was in a good spot, it had everything going for it. And I thought, something's wrong. I'm missing something, something's wrong. So I took it out, started picking through, and that's when I saw the mesh. And it was a mesh plug. And so I went through and cut Lisa free from her bonds and resettled her in bark and sphagnum in a net pot, which she apparently likes. And she's been growing really well. The internodal spacing on this one has been a little sparse. And that may be due to conditions she was in while going through that part of her life. Is that? Oh, I think that's a peduncle. That would be very I think that's a peduncle. That would be very cool. It'd be the first time that Lisa has bloomed for me. Again, I need to move her to self-watering. I think that would make all the difference. And I think that would make her a much happier plant. But this is a gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous plant. And she has put up with abuse and neglect, and she just keeps hanging in there. So yeah, I like this plant, and I recommend it. It's Hoya australis Lisa. And you saw this guy a couple weeks ago. This is my, Hoya subquintuplinervis. And it was blooming for the first time for me, and it has continued. I don't know if you'll be able to see in there. It has continued to bloom, and there's more blooms coming on here. There's another peduncle that will focus. There we go. And it's doing very well. I've been surprised at all the blooms, and that the blooms keep on doing well. Some of the OG leaves are a little peaked, but everybody else looks good. It's a very succulent Hoya. It's been, there's moisture, there's water. But it's been doing really well. It lives over there, which is northeast window, northeast side of the porch, so it gets nice light, gets a touch of early morning light, but this is Hoya subquintuplinervis. I really like this plant. And you saw this guy a couple weeks ago as well. This is Hoya carnosa crinklate. Yeah, I was gonna say this is my favorite carnosa. It's a two-way tie between this and I have a Wilbur Graves that grows like a weed, but Wilbur hasn't bloomed for me yet, and crinklate has. You saw it a couple weeks ago. Now there's more peduncles here. Let's cover my face and maybe it'll focus. Maybe it won't. There's peduncles up here. This is growing up. Oh, there's a big batch of them down here. Sorry if it's banging on the microphone, but yeah, carnosas have kind of a reputation of not blooming or taking for freaking ever to bloom. Not this one. If you can find a Hoya carnosa crinklate, I would jump all over it because this has just been a good grower for me. It was a carnosa. I had very low expectations for blossoms or growth when I first got it, and it has smashed all of those. There's new growth here. I just clipped up another vine a few seconds ago. Yeah, this is a goodie. This is a good one. This is Hoya carnosa crinklate. And this next one up is my other Hoya species affinity burtoniae. And as you can see, it looks like what a burtoniae is supposed to. He's hanging over there. What he's supposed to look like. Flatter leaves, slight curl on the edge, but not like the first one. So when I saw this one, I literally stumbled over it. It was laying on the floor, half out of the pot, literally half out of the pot on the floor in a big box store. And it was one of those, I looked down and I went, that's species affinity burtoniae. And I slid it back in the pot and picked it up and headed to the checkout. So it's been doing really well. It was a good lush plant to start with. And it settled, because I did the same thing, I transitioned it to bark and sphagnum in the hanging pot. And it seemed to handle that really, really well. It's handled the heat fairly well this summer. So that may be one of the first ones I move to the new self-watering hanging pots. And again, I'll keep you posted. But if you can, I like the other species affinity burtoniae because of the story and the history we have. Don't tell him, but I think this one's prettier. So this is Hoya species affinity burtoniae number 2. And the next one up is my Hoya wayetii. the big one. I had purchased a small Hoya wayetii that you saw a couple weeks ago when it bloomed, and it's done really well. It's it's not gone great guns for me, but it's done really well, and I'm happy with it. This one was, again, a discovery in a big box store. It's from that big plant company, and I did the same thing. I pulled it all out, washed all the roots off, resettled it in a bark sphagnum mix, and it took about, I'm going to say, a year for it to really settle in. It just finished blooming about 2 weeks ago. It's been a good grower. It's another one I would love to move to self-watering because I think it would, actually, all these hanging ones, if this works out, I'm going to move them all to the self-watering setup because I like wayetii. It's a fun and pretty plant. So this is Hoya wayetii. And this next one up is sort of a cautionary tale, just to show that things don't always go right here. This is my Hoya rotundiflora, and I'm not exactly sure what happened. This could be a triggering event for some people, but it is, I don't know whether it has already checked out or if it's on the path to checking out. It was doing really, really well. It's my fault. I had it in a weird location where I couldn't see it easily. It had been growing like crazy. Happy, doing its thing, going along really well. I didn't think I'd missed too many waterings, but I have a feeling that's what happened, that I let it get dry. So I took some cuttings. I'm gonna see, oh man, it's like, the leaves are like leather and it's painful to look at. I took some cuttings to see if I can root it and maybe start it over again. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Anyway, I think next time I'm going to try this as a climber. If the cuttings root, that's fine. If I have to buy a new one, I'm going to, because I was so pleased with this plant. It was going so well. But as I've said, it put out these long leaves, or long vines without any leaves. So clearly it was looking for something to grab onto and climb. And I had always thought of it as a trailing plant, but I think I'm going to change my approach and look upon it as a climber. And I'm going to start shopping for a new one because this is sad. But, stuff happens. What can you do? And at the end of the day, it's a plant. So, thank you for your service, but your days here may be finished. This was Hoya rotundiflora. Okay, well, we've all made it to the end of the first chapter of the Long Hoya Tour. I want to thank you for choosing to spend a little bit of your time with me this week's end. Remember the thumbs up, the like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell, all that good stuff. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. A lot of the products that you've seen me use in this video and other videos are in my Amazon storefront, and there's a link in the description below. I get a small commission on the sales, but it doesn't affect your price at all. If you'd like to help support the channel, you can visit my Buy Me a Coffee page, and there's a link in the description below as well. There's going to be, I need this hand, there's going to be links to a couple more videos that you might find entertaining over here. And enjoy the rest of your week's end.